It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life's Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Change makers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. We are all hardwired to think and work differently. What challenges and excites one person may seem boring or unsatisfying to another. According to today's guest, Betsy Wills, discovering your hidden genius is the key to discovering your life's work. She joins us to talk about how you can identify your natural talents, interests, and personality traits. Betsy is the co-founder of YouScience and is the co-author of the book, Your Hidden Genius, the Science-Backed Strategy to Uncovering and Harnessing Your Innate Talents. Welcome, Betsy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Betsy, for the sake of this conversation, when we talk about hidden genius, what does that mean?
Well, it truly has been hidden for so many years. People have not understood the difference between what their natural and innate abilities are versus, say, their personality or their interest. And it's really only been within the last 10 years that one could have them measured. And the surprising thing to most people is there's actually 52 different aptitudes or innate abilities that can be measured, and better yet, that can be taken advantage of.
Are these traits unique to each of us? Is it like a fingerprint?
It's exactly like a fingerprint. And what's really interesting is we all have combinations of these aptitudes in different amounts. So if you imagine a soundboard, for instance, if you were wanting to make beautiful music, you're going to have a series of low tones and high tones. Think of your hidden genius or your aptitude pattern as that soundboard.
Why is this important? Why is it important for us to discover our aptitudes and what really drives us to want to excel?
Well, so many of us march towards a job. We go through high school, college, and honestly, our parents and our families and outside influences have a huge influence basically on the decisions we make at that very young age. And as you may know, we wake up sometimes in our 30s, which happened to me, and sort of look around and say, wait a minute, what am I doing here exactly? Our aptitudes are fixed by the time we go through puberty. They start emerging in childhood, and then they're fixed by the time we are about 17 or 18 years old. And what an aptitude is the innate talents that we have that are the seeds of our skills, not the skills themselves. But if you think about, these might be something like spatial ability, or some people generate ideas very rapidly, and other people, it's more of a slow drip. Other things, some people can recognize hue and colors in certain ways. So this array of things are signals or clues to where we learn fastest and find the most satisfaction in our life.
When I was preparing for this conversation, I was thinking about my own life and going way back to high school. And when I was getting ready to go to college, and I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I thought to myself, well, I'm good in math, so why don't I just major in math? I hated math, but it was something I was good at. And so I went to college and I started as a math major, quickly changing after 2 years to communication. But, do you think that that's what a lot of us do? And is that what we force our kids to do?
Well, I think we do because, Joan, honestly, all of us have a desire that our children sleep indoors, okay? We want them to be safe, so we want to quickly get them, the education or placed in a situation where they can be paid and financially secure. I mean, that's just normal and natural. There's nothing wrong with that. But to your case, for instance, being a math major because you were good at math, that probably is one of your aptitudes, is what we would call numerical reasoning. That's great. But what happens so often is we have other aptitudes that we ignore, and those at one time or another are going to feel like they've been shortchanged, and they can, create depression. They can create a lot of havoc because they're itches that need to be scratched. So the point of understanding our aptitude pattern is to get the full range of possibilities that we have rather than leave a lot of things unused or unmet on the table. So as an example, someone with a strong mathematical aptitude like yourself may be an excellent lead of a marketing company, for instance, because you do understand the numbers, and that's helpful. But your real power might be actually in, generating ideas or making decisions under time pressure. Who knows? I mean, obviously, I'd love for you to have your aptitudes assessed, and then we could even talk more deeply about it.
And keeping with my own life, I'll just use me as an example for this conversation. I think so many times people are unhappy because they do what I described doing, just going into something I'm good at, but am not particularly passionate about. And it was later in life, I lived most of my life in that way. And it was later in life when my life fell apart that I found my passion, so to speak. I started this work. And now I don't feel like I'm working a day in my life. I would do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I love everything about it. So when you get to that point, is that when someone is living in their hidden genius, in that zone of genius?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think let's use the word satisfaction. I mean, you're excited every day, you're motivated every day to, use those talents and keep building on them. And that's, I'm sure when you started your work, you were good at it, but now I bet you're amazing at it. I can already tell. And that's because you've practiced it and it's come naturally and easily to you.
So for someone that's listening to you right now who started off the way I did and got into a profession that they're not really crazy about, but they do it because it pays the bills, how does that person switch? How do they make a change to live a more satisfying life?
Right. I mean, pivots are inevitable. One of the things I always discuss is the fact that people say they're in a crisis, okay? Crisis, the actual definition of that word means a turn for the worse, of course, how we all use it, but it also means a turn for the better. So we are inevitably going to face crisis, and we're going to need to pivot in some way. But I would never recommend someone throw their career out with, just wholesale. I would take a long time to consider that and look at where the skills you've already built can be applied elsewhere and kind of make a shift to the left a little bit or a shift to the right instead of putting our careers on the witness stand as, okay, that's horrible, I can't do it. Now, certainly there are times we need to do that, but when you build skills, they are normally very transferable and can be, the ticket for you to make the move to your next thing that would be more beneficial and happier for you. So I never think that, it's a waste to have developed skills like you did in math. I wouldn't be surprised if you use it in your daily life, but it's just you have others that you were ignoring that now you put better to use.
So how can someone go about beginning this self-evaluation of determining what their talents are and how they can better use these aptitudes?
Okay, well, that's the million-dollar question. I'm so glad you asked. You really cannot self-evaluate your aptitudes. You can guess at them, and we have hints of them along the way. But in order to know what your aptitudes are, and as I said, there's many that need to be evaluated beyond just, your run-of-the-mill basics, you need to take an objective assessment. And that is why we wrote Your Hidden Genius. I co-founded a company called YouScience in 2010 and brought an aptitude assessment that you had to go to a center to take, and it was about $750. And what we did was we digitized it. We brought it into an online environment, and now over 3 million people have taken it. But we really focused on high school and college students because they had the most acute problem to make these decisions. The book, however, includes the assessment for free, a code, and it's really aimed at really the adults. And so more people can get this information at a later time in their lives, like I did, who took it when I was 32, and it really transformed my life.
Shouldn't this be something that a company puts into place before hiring a person? Like, wouldn't you want to know if the person you're interviewing is suited for the job that you're looking to fill?
I would say it is very helpful for companies to use this assessment, but it's never meant to be a tool to keep someone out. It's really a tool to unveil where they can be best used inside the company. So most of the time, companies are using this to do leadership development or team development, team dynamics, that type of thing, start conversations, because a lot of us are in companies where, we may not be that happy, for instance. It could be our boss, but sometimes it's because we're not being utilized or developed or we're not learning anymore. And again, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So companies can use this to kind of redirect certain team members to do more of the things that they can bring their talent to bear on. For instance, some people are in sales, but they would really like to also be training other salespeople because they have that aptitude. So there's lots of ways that understanding what people's gifts and talents are clues for how we can develop them and keep them and retain them versus shift them out of the company.
Well, and I think having this knowledge on a personal level, it would help us keep up with the changing workforce with technology changes and things like that. If we know our aptitude, we have a better shot of pivoting or evolving with whatever direction the company is heading.
Well, I mean, just look at the news and all the talk of severance and people, being pushed out or asked to leave or suggested that they leave. Staying nimble is about understanding yourself first. And so I think this kind of information arms you with how to talk about yourself effectively, how to advocate for yourself, and how to truly know what skills you can keep redeploying to meet a really fast-changing workplace, which is the reality of today. You can be safe if you know who you are.
Do you think when we don't align with our assets, we're in essence setting ourselves up for, and I hate the word failure, but to not really be as successful as we can?
I 100% think that. I think the real word comes back to, again, being satisfied and motivated. And you talk about how you're aligned with your aptitudes and excited about your day and probably creative and, different ways you can continue to learn within the field you're in. And that's really the key. So self-understanding and understanding where you can keep learning and where those things are going to come naturally and easily. Joan, I always tell people, I don't know if you have a pen handy, but to write their name with their dominant hand. If you do that, I'm sure that you could do that really quickly. Now, if I ask you to switch hands and write your name with your non-dominant hand, how does that feel?
Uncomfortable, sloppy, and didn't do as good a job with it. Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, now, if for some reason you had to use that non-dominant hand for the rest of your life, maybe you had an accident or something.
Wow.
With practice, you could get better using the non-dominant hand. Right? We can learn anything with practice. So we can tolerate a lot of jobs that don't use our aptitudes, and we can be adequate at it. But as with your hand, you're never going to be a calligrapher, okay, using that non-dominant hand. So why go through your life, spending most of your time doing activities that are really not in your aptitudes? Let's all embrace what our aptitudes are and live our life using that dominant hand.
And that is really a powerful example and I recommend everyone do that, because when you think about it, that is how we go through our lives. I'm right-handed, and when I tried to write it with my left hand, that's pretty much when you're forcing yourself to do something that isn't in your comfort zone or come naturally to you, you are doing that. And wow, that is really a great example.
Well, thank you. And, as I said, we all do have to, perform duties aren't using our dominant hand. I mean, let's face it, that's reality. But let's gear our lives towards more things that use our dominant hand and ask to use our dominant hand aptitudes more at work and in our relationships as well.
Yeah. One of the things I've learned from doing this work all of these years is how magnificent our brain is. And if we just have a basic understanding of the way it's wired and works for us, and I have learned to use my brain for me. And do you believe that it's important for that? Because that's really what this is. It's using your wiring to your advantage.
Exactly. And to get excited about it. I mean, really, I say this is truly about empathy and it's about love. When you understand your own aptitudes, you stop looking at other people as a flawed version of you. I love to say that because I think we all have a tendency in some ways to just expect everybody else is just like us, and they're just not. And, the other thing people tend to do is discount the things that do come naturally and easily to them because they assume, oh, everybody can do that, or that's not that important or valuable. And really the opposite is true, Joan. So that's the exciting thing about understanding your hidden genius, your aptitudes, having them objectively measured by, a psychometrically strong assessment, and then deploying them. That's the next step. And I always say motivation is sold separately, but the first step is understanding what it is you're working with.
So how can we as parents better prepare our kids to align with their aptitudes? Because when you think about it, we're asking our children the way we were asked to make a decision about the rest of your life when you're 18 years old. So how can we better prepare our kids so that they have the best chance of success in this crazy world?
Gosh, that's a big question. School, I can't change how school is taught, but I will say that of the 52 aptitudes, it probably honors about 2 or 3 of them. So what we're leaving on the table is the tragedy. So I would suggest that, first of all, understand what these aptitudes are in your own life, have your own assessed. And then when as a parent, you'll start to see these clues coming out. Spatial ability, for example, there's always, the child who loves Legos, or they can build the Taj Mahal out of Legos or something, or they always are doing things with their hands. Those are early spatial abilities coming out. Now, school doesn't really honor those things until way late. And so what women, for instance, often have those abilities, and they are not encouraged to look at their array of options, say engineering or some of the STEM things, or even graphic design. And so noticing and understanding what the potential aptitudes are, and then giving our children experiences and speaking in that language, I think is the first step. But and really encouraging exploration. I think some people say we have a talent gap in this country, but really what we have is an exposure gap. So whatever it is as a parent you can do to broaden, sort of the possibilities and exploration for your young person is going to help.
I keep going back to that exercise that you just took me through, writing with my right versus my left hand. Do you think that so many people are burned out because they're just tired from overtaxing, having to keep doing their job, their task, using their less prominent aptitudes and underutilizing their stronger ones?
Yes.
It's like the light bulb just went on in my head.
It's exhausting to do that. And, it's burnout, or it's boredom is the other one. We get bored when we are not using aptitudes that are sort of sitting ducks in our life. So you're always in between boredom and burnout in your job, and finding that sweet spot is critically important. And let's not forget that not every job is going to use every aptitude that we have, but we need to use as many aptitudes as we can. And that's why avocations and volunteer work are so important, because even if your job doesn't allow you to use it, and, let's face it, we have to make money, you can create a wonderful, satisfying life by honoring your aptitudes and hobbies and avocations.
Well, this is such an important topic because if you think about it, we spend 40 to 50 years of our lives doing something like this. And, if anything we can do to give us an advantage to help us to be happier, because there are a lot of unhappy people out there today.
Oh, man. When I started this work, I thought I was a mother and wanted to come back into the workforce. And I thought, I'm going to help so many people who are just like me. Well, it turned out the type of people who called me most often were 40-year-old male lawyers. And that is when the light bulb went off for me, that, there's so many people struggling through, their daily life. And there's lots of ways that we can make a difference by helping them understand, where they're best suited. So, I would talk to lawyers, for instance, who had spatial abilities, and they were getting no use of that in their work, which was highly abstract. And I would never tell them to quit their job, but like one of them I remember started going for clients who were in real estate development, which gave him a lot more satisfaction because he was working in a world of 3D. And another one, this is hilarious, he would go to garage sales and buy broken toasters and bring them home take them apart and put them back together to utilize that spatial ability. Now, I know that sounds silly, but it is as simple as that. And now I think he ended up going to take a woodworking class and using it in a different way. But it's just interesting how those small pivots can really make a difference.
Well, it is interesting, the story you shared about your own life, because I started doing this after 17 years as a stay-at-home mom, and I had given up all of my earning power, and pretty much when my life fell apart, I needed to pivot and figure out what I could do, and I created this crazy brand and show, and it was almost like I stepped into all of my aptitudes without even trying. It just organically happened, and once it did, everything clicked. And I've been able to build a company and a brand. And like I said, it is a passion. I do this and it doesn't feel like work. So I think it is absolutely worth an exploration for people to try to figure out what will make them happy. Their soul sing was what I was going to say. But it really makes a difference in your life when you can figure that out.
Well, I love your story so much because I definitely identify with that. And I went back to work into the financial industry, but I also had discovered a real aptitude for writing. So I started a blog, and it's on art, so totally different. So I basically, found paid work, but also avocations that really filled me up. So I absolutely love your story, and I think so many people, let's face it, we're living longer. And, motherhood is such an honor, and staying home is incredible, and what a rare opportunity these days. But the big picture is our life is long. And so, we're going to have many pivots, and we should embrace them and get ready. There's no reason to be worried about that. But our aptitudes don't change. After, we've been through puberty, they stay the same. So in the book, we interviewed people from 17 to 75, and they all had, patterns of their own, and were going for it in different ways. So I hope those stories will inspire a lot of people.
And once again, that book is Your Hidden Genius, the science-backed strategy to uncovering and harnessing your innate talents. Betsy, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where can they go?
You should just go to yourhiddengenius.com. And let me say that the book includes, again, a unique code to take the assessment online. So each book gets a code, and that's written about in the book, and you can find your code when you purchase the book. So everyone can experience this now. What was a very expensive assessment is open to everyone with just the purchase of the book. So I hope more people will take advantage of that.
And Betsy, what's the takeaway? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
Don't be among the walking dead. Don't give up. Wake yourself up by understanding yourself well, and get enthusiastic about all that is to come. I'm hugely positive, and I think there's, so many gifts in everyone, and I hope they'll take advantage of learning what those are and then deploying them.
Betsy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided is the opinion of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read our digital articles, and be sure to subscribe to our mailing list. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.